Hey, what's going on everyone? Greg here with another video, this time covering some tips and tricks for the iPhone XR. So I know a lot of people in my comment section, a lot of people who have been telling me that they have been purchasing this phone have mentioned that they are coming from older devices, iPhone 6s, iPhone 6 Pluses, iPhone 7s, iPhone 8s, and so on. And a lot of you guys obviously don't have an iPhone 10, an iPhone XS, or an iPhone XS Max. Considering these phones are so similar, considering these are new designs and the iPhone 10 was really expensive last year, and the iPhone XR actually got the price down to a reasonable $750, a lot of you guys are new to the iPhone 10 user experience. You're coming from phones that had foreheads, you're coming from phones that had chins, and you're probably new to the way you interact with the iPhone XR, you're probably new to Face ID, and you might not all the inner workings, all the shortcuts, all the tips and tricks for the iPhone 10, or for that matter, the iPhone XR. Now in this video, I'm going to be covering 10 tips and tricks for the iPhone XR. A lot of this is aimed at newer users, like I said in the beginning, although I do think even some experienced iPhone 10 users could learn a thing or two by watching this video. So the first tip I have for you actually has to deal with a 3D touch interaction that isn't in the iPhone XR. So if you know anything about the iPhone XR, you know that 3D touch isn't supported on it. It's one of the features that the XS and XS Max have that the iPhone XR doesn't have. But one of the most important features with 3D touch for me is moving that cursor around. So say you're typing in an application and you want to move that cursor around, all you have to do instead of 3D touching the characters on the keyboard is actually long press the spacebar. You'll feel a haptic touch and you'll notice that a cursor pops up on the keyboard, and then you can get into your text selection tool. You can move around the insertion point and more accurately pick where your text is. Say you wanted to go back and delete a specific character, you wanted to go back and capitalize something at a comma or a period. A very easy way to actually just get that selection tool popped up, and it actually is on the iPhone XR. You just have to long press the spacebar. Okay, another feature on the iPhone XR is Haptic Touch. Now you might not exactly know what this is if you're coming from 3D touch and you don't have that feature anymore. You're thinking, okay, what is haptic touch? And there are a few instances where you can access these quick actions. Most notably in Control Center, if you swipe down, you'll notice that you have all the control platters on the iPhone XR, and all you have to do is long press into those control platters. You can see that you get some quick interactions, which is very similar to 3D touch. It's basically just a long press with haptic feedback, and you can actually use this in a couple more locations. Say you're on the lock screen, you'll see a flashlight icon and a camera icon. Most new users to the iPhone 10 will actually press on those and it does nothing. What you want to do is long press those icons and you can actually turn on the flashlight and turn on the camera. A really quick way to access both the camera and the flashlight just from the lock screen. So another tip on the iPhone XR is the fact that you can now do portrait mode with just a single lens on this camera. This is a feature a lot of you know about, but what you might not notice is that you actually get a wide angle version of the portrait mode on the iPhone XR. This isn't available on the iPhone 10, on the iPhone XS, on the iPhone XS Max, or even on the iPhone 7 and 8 Plus models. So you might be asking yourself, well, how is this necessarily a tip? And that is that you can take advantage of this wide angle aperture. You actually can let more light into this single lens aperture than you can on the portrait mode on the iPhone XS. And that means you can actually get lower light portrait shots and wider angle portrait shots. So really take advantage of that if you have an iPhone XR. You can get closer to a subject than you could with the iPhone XS Max. You can blur out more background, you can get a wider angle of focus, and you can also take some really, really nice night mode portrait shots with the iPhone XR. If you've been playing around with the iPhone XR portrait mode, you may have noticed that the portrait mode only works on human faces right now. And that actually is a disadvantage compared to the iPhone XS, where you can take portrait mode of objects, of animals, as well as human faces, and you might be missing that feature. Fortunately for you, there is an app called Halid in the App Store, and they can actually re-enable portrait mode shots of objects, of pets, of other things that you might want to take of portrait mode besides human faces. Go to the App Store. I believe Halid does cost money, but you can download it. And once you download it from the App Store, you can actually open up the camera app and you can go into it and you will actually see an option on the iPhone XR for depth. Toggle that option on and then you can go ahead and take a picture as you normally would of a pet, of an object, and it'll actually enable portrait mode on objects and not just on human faces. I think the portrait mode on the iPhone XR and this app with objects isn't as good as the iPhone XS, but it is a nice improvement to actually have the option to take a portrait mode, even if it's not as good as the XS, and you can easily disable and enable it inside of the Halid app. And you can see how the blur is applied to that portrait mode shot. Really cool that they can actually enable this with just the single lens in that app. Hopefully Apple finds a way through a software update to actually add portrait mode of objects, of pets, to the single lens on the iPhone XR, and it doesn't remain a feature that only the iPhone XS can do. So another tip, one of the newer interactions with the iPhone XR that wasn't available on any previous LCD iPhones, ranging all the way back from the first iPhone, is the way you turn on the screen. So if you're used to an iPhone, you know that you have the sleep wake side button, and you can tap that to turn on the screen, but you're probably also used to having a home button if you're coming from an iPhone 6, an iPhone 7, or an iPhone 8, and the iPhone XR does not have a home button. So maybe you're wondering, okay, how do I quickly turn on the screen without a home button? Fortunately, the iPhone XR is the first LCD phone to support tap to wake for an iPhone. So all you have to do with the iPhone XR is just tap on the screen and it'll actually turn on. The feature was actually first available on the Apple Watch with that OLED display and the way Apple implemented it, and now it's actually available on the iPhones, and it's going to be available on the new iPad Pros as well. So really cool to see Apple figure out a way to bring tap to wake to the LCD screens. Okay, now another trick for everyone out there is that Face ID on the iPhone XR is probably new to you. So if you're coming from those older iPhones, you've been used to Touch ID. And I have some really good tricks and tips for you for Face ID. The first one being is that Face ID is more secure than Touch ID, but there also is a downside to it. Say you're handing over your phone to someone that you don't trust, or maybe you're handing your phone over to someone that you don't want to have access to your phone. One of the disadvantages with Face ID is that they could actually potentially take the phone and point it at your face to unlock it. So if someone asks for your phone, say you're at a security checkpoint, if you're going traveling somewhere and you don't want anyone to see any sort of information of your phone, all you have to do is hold the side button of the sleep wake button and the volume up and down button, and that will actually lock the phone. And when you lock the phone like that, you'll see an emergency area where you can actually call for help, send an SOS out, but it will also disable Face ID on the phone. Say if someone tried to steal your phone from you, try to take it from you, all you have to do is just quickly hold those two buttons down. It'll immediately disable Face ID and require you to enter a passcode. So if you're handing your phone over to someone, if they want to take a look at it, and you don't really trust them, you think they might unlock it, just quickly lock that phone down and you'll be more secure. Now, another benefit to having Face ID on the iPhone is something that is called attention-aware features. So with the iPhone XR, you can actually go into the settings, scroll down to Face ID and passcodes, make sure you enter in your passcode, and then from there you can actually go down and you can see that you have a slider for attention-aware features. So what the attention-aware feature does is actually have Face ID see to see if you are looking at your device. And if it knows you're looking at your device, it can actually do some pretty cool things, like it won't dim the screen if you're looking at an article and you're reading it. If Face ID actually sees your eyes looking at the screen, it won't preemptively dim the phone, and vice versa. If you look away from your phone, it'll actually dim the screen faster. One of my favorite features with this is actually setting off an alarm. So I always set a lot of alarms, and sometimes I forget I have them active. And the worst thing is to hold your phone in the morning, use your phone, and all of a sudden have a loud alarm go off right in your face. With the attention-aware feature, it automatically sends that alarm to a really, really soft alarm and just quiets it down for you as you pick up your phone. Even if your alarm goes off at full volume and you pick up your phone and you look at it, it'll just automatically lower the volume, a really, really nice feature to have on the iPhone XR. With the iPhone XR and the iPhone XS, Face ID has actually gotten 15% faster, and it is noticeable in day-to-day use, but maybe you want to make Face ID even faster. Maybe it's still too slow for you. So if you repeat the steps of the last tip I mentioned, going into settings, going into Face ID, entering your passcode, and scrolling down, you'll see another slider called Require Attention for Face ID. What this does is add another level of security to Face ID to make sure that it only activates if your eyes are looking at the camera sensor. By disabling this, this actually doesn't require Face ID to see your eyes, so it can actually start instantly scanning your face. Start scanning your face right away, automatically opens up the lock. You don't have to be looking at the phone for it to work. And say if you have a nice pair of sunglasses, I actually happen to have a pair of Ray-Ban sunglasses that I like a lot, and that actually blocks the infrared lights coming out of Face ID. If I wear those sunglasses and I don't turn this feature off, I can't unlock my phone with Face ID without lifting up my glasses and looking at the phone. If I disable this, I can actually just look at the phone with my sunglasses on and it'll unlock. So another trick for Face ID is actually adding a second appearance. So if you go back into that same menu where we've been setting up the last few tips, you can actually go to the top of the settings over here and see a set up alternate appearance. So what this does is allow you to set up a different look for Face ID, or maybe you want to add a second person like your husband, wife, or girlfriend to unlock the phone as well. You can set up a second appearance and it'll actually allow another person to unlock the phone, or maybe you just have something obstructing your face, maybe like a scarf or something like that. You can actually set up that second appearance, and then Face ID will look for both appearances and unlock on any of the appearance. Okay, so for you new iPhone XR users, this is a really helpful trick and tip, and that is to bring back the home button. So what you want to do is go to settings, you want to hit on general settings, you want to scroll down to accessibility, and then you actually want to go over and turn on assistive touch. When you turn on assistive touch, you actually get a virtual home button on the screen. This is a home button that you can actually move anywhere on the screen. So say if you hold your phone a certain way, if you want to put it on the side, you can quickly get access to the home button. Not only is this a home button that you can use to go home, but you can actually really customize this assistive touch feature to give you quick actions. So you can actually even use this if you're a power user, even if you like the gestures, you can customize this home button to go home, access the control center, access your notifications, thing you want to do with assistive touch, even if it's just simply using it as a home button, or if you want to do more of those power user tools where you have really quick access to shortcuts. That is a feature that a lot of people actually don't know about. And this has been on previous iPhones as well, but it is even more special on the iPhone X and iPhone XR, where you do lose access to that home button. All right, everyone, and those were just some quick tips and tricks on the iPhone XR. Again, aimed at new users to the iPhone XR. If they helped you out, if there's ones that you didn't know, or even if you knew them all, let me know in the comments below. Hopefully this helped you out if you're new to the iPhone XR. I really don't know. I know the iPhone X was released a year ago, and I did a tips and tricks video back then that was really popular, helped a lot of people out, so I figured I would do one for the iPhone XR, considering a lot of people on my channel are currently interested in it. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, make sure you give it a like. If you want to see more from my channel, make sure you subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.